Okay, welcome to Outlaw Woodworking. Today we are going to do something exciting. We finally are up and running with our CNC, and we're going to do one of our first projects. And because my nephew is in the Marines, we're actually going to open a file that we already drew and see if we can find it here. Marine Corps flag right there. Now we're going to take a little better look at this drawing and make sure how it looks. So if we go to the 2D flag, we've got our stars, we've got our stripes, and the material boundaries. Let's see what this is. Set job dimension and origin. Okay, so we're 30 by 16, an inch and a half thick. Now we need to verify this material thickness. I glued up some material and I planed it, so I need to verify that. So let me go check that with the calipers really quick. Okay, so after checking the material, I realized that we're 1 and an 8. So let's see, how do I convert that? 1 point, let's double check that. Thickness 1. And we're going to do high resolution and hit OK. Now we're going to go ahead and look at our tool paths. Okay, we've got 5 tool paths. We got the stars that we're going to V-carve, the pocket, which is a 1/4 inch end mill. That'll pocket out these stripes. And then we got an 1/8 inch end mill that'll get in a little closer in these corners. And then we got our 3D roughing tool path and our 3D finish tool path. Now we could do our pocket toolpath and then our 3D roughing toolpath in that sequence, since they're both 1/4 inch end mills. Anyway, let's save this. Actually, I'm going to preview this toolpath. Let's preview, take a closer look at it. Now this will be the first time I've done a 3D. Now that cuts pretty deep right there. That looks pretty cool. And it doesn't go through, so okay, let's take this over. We'll save this toolpath and we will go over there and cut it. So click all the toolpaths, click save, and we're going to save these to multiple files because we can only do one at a time. Okay, let's go try to cut this. This is basically a story of 3 different flags. So this first flag, I home the machine, I locate the corner of my project, and the first cut is going to be the V-carve of the stars, and that seemed to go pretty good. I was pretty happy with how they looked. So the first thing is just V-carving all the letters. Second was to put a 1/4 inch bit in, and again I locate the position X, Y, and Z, and then I cut out the stripes. And at this point everything seemed to be going okay. The stripes actually came out really good, and yeah, I was happy with it. But this is about learning. And one thing I learned, look how deep I made these stripes 1/2 inch deep, and I really didn't need to do that. I could have had them 1/4 inch deep and they would have looked just as good. So having them 1/2 inch deep, that took longer to cut all these. Here's a different view. Now another thing I'm learning is in the node edit, you can actually program your drawing where to start your cutting. And I didn't really know that, but what I do is I try to draw something and cut it every day. And in this particular case, so look how deep those are. So I could save a lot of time by redoing the toolpath to 1/4 inch thick instead of a 1/2 inch thick. And I kind of jumped the gun going right to a hard 3D. So I was going to put a U.S. Marine 3D in the center of this template. And actually it almost worked out. I think the mistake I made was I didn't have the right tool for the finishing pass, and I'll show that to you in a minute. Here's a different angle, and here the pocketing is almost done. The nice thing is I won't have to do a bit change right here because the 3D roughing toolpath uses the same tool, a 1/4 inch upcut. Yeah, these did not need to be a 1/2 inch deep. And that's part of the learning process, figuring out how to shorten your time. So I did 3 flags. This was the first one, and you'll see in a minute why it failed. So that was the pocketing toolpath for the stripes. Now I go to the 3D toolpath. This is the roughing 3D toolpath, and this is a Marine Corps logo. And the roughing toolpath actually went well. Here you can see it a little better. It's almost done. Yeah, so the rough-in toolpath went really well. It did take a long time to do that roughing toolpath though. 3D really takes a long time. That was my first attempt at it. Here's a better shot of it. Once that roughing toolpath finished up, I then replaced the bit with a finishing tool, a tapered ball nose. And this bit came from Bits and Bits, but watch what it does. So there, it's going to start going around in circle, and it's just going to tear this thing up. And that was a bummer, especially when I spent so much time on the roughing pass already. Right away it did not look right. Something was going wrong. So right here is where I find out what is going on. Now I should have maybe gone back and forth on a raster instead of offset, but this thing just went right around in a circle and tore the whole model up. I eventually just hit the emergency stop and gave up. And that was the end of that flag. You can see how bad it looks, and it's really, it went south for sure. Here's attempt number 2, and same dimension, 30 by 16. And this time I decided I'm not going to try to do a model. I did a flag, and I put basically the Second Amendment letters into it. And I shortened up the slots, the flag pockets to a 1/4 inch instead of a 1/2 inch. So I thought that would go a lot faster. And yeah, the first thing I do is the pockets. Actually, no, it looks like I'm doing the letters first. So that's a V-bit, a 90-degree V-bit. Now what I found out was either the material wasn't level on the table, because the letters on the bottom were really distinguished and looked real good, whereas the letters on top, they just didn't, they were really small and didn't carve out. The cutter barely cut them. So this particular flag was a failure because basically the letters didn't turn out. Matter of fact, the very top row didn't even cut at all. And you could tell because the half of the stars were cut really deep, and then the other half were barely cut. So I'm chalking that up to my material that I placed on here. I should have surfaced it, like just took a 1/16 off of it or something before I started this flag. So that was attempt number 2 that failed. And there it is, attempt number 3. You can see the letters on top are missing. The letters on bottom look good. Half the stars are smaller than the other half. So that was a failure. So I went back to the drawing board, redrew it. Now I'm going to try it on this piece of plywood. I redid the letters. I redid the dimensions, the thickness of the material. I made the slots a 1/4 inch deep, so they went really fast. And we went ahead and tried another one. Now this one, I'd have to say I was successful with this one. The material, everything came out really good, so it was definitely flat. My table's definitely flat. So right here I changed to a V-bit. First bit was a pocketing toolpath, and this is the V toolpath. Now there's a lot of letters on this flag, Basically, it's a Second Amendment flag. I thought that would be kind of cool to make. And the letters all looked good. I made the letters bigger and bolder, and I checked the dimensions, and this one came out really good. So I would definitely say that this third one was a success. So basically, if you just have to keep practicing. And there's a definite learning curve to the drawing, to the cutting, the using of the tools. So I ordered a new 3D tool from Amana. So I'm hoping to basically attempt my 3D flag again next week. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, I get this. There was one little blowout on the side that I glued, but I basically stained this whole thing, and I'm going to put some coats of clear on it after it dries. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like the video, and I will see you next time. Later. Here's a look at it all stained. You can see the letters came out good, the stars came out good. I was actually happy with this one. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like the video. I'll see you next time. Later.